today I'm here to tell you that maybe you shouldn't do yoga. Because today we're talking about the hamstrings. And hamstrings and hamstring attachments, so there's three muscles along the back of the thigh, and they all attach to your buttock bone, your sitting bone, the ischial tuberosities, right? All the same thing, three different ways of naming it. And two of them attach to the inner knee and one of them attached to the outer knee, below on the shin bone, tibia and fibula. If you have hurt the tendon, so not the belly of the muscle, but where it attaches up on your buttock bone, which is one of the most common injuries in yoga, really, you need to take a week off. And because it's one of the most common injuries in yoga, because we tend to stretch and overly stretch and think that that feeling of stretching up at the buttock bone is a good thing, it's not. The tendon shouldn't stretch, the muscle should stretch. That's where you have more of the stretch capacity. The tendon only has about 4%. You need to ice it, rest it, and unfortunately, many people re-injure it because they go back to yoga too quickly. And then you're dealing with something that is a chronic problem. And hamstrings can take a really long time to heal. So just taking a week off during that real inflammatory time is not a long amount of time in the broad scheme of things. This is not something that you really want to become a chronic problem. So do yourself a favor, give yourself a break, and then start to begin to rebuild. And we're going to work on engagement, and that's what we're going to do today. So a little mini practice. We are not going to stretch the hamstrings at all. We are going to find new, maybe, and different, hopefully, ways of doing asana that you might not have thought about before, or engaging different muscles so you don't go to the end range of motion. So you're not hanging out in the joints, but you're finding more engagement and stability, not only in the hamstrings, but in the surrounding muscles as well. So it becomes a much more rich and full and deep way of doing asana. For today's practice, you'll need a block and a ball. Again, no yoga if you're in that acute phase, if you've just injured yourself and you're searching for yoga for hamstring tears or hamstring injuries. All right, we'll start on our back. Bridge pose. Familiar with that? Setu Bandhasana. First, just let yourself lie down. Let your muscles, let your back body release. Feel how the breath is moving in the body. One of the best things you can do when you're injured is to slow down. Notice what you notice. The body is always giving you feedback. It's always telling you something. Can you take a long, slow, smooth, mindful breath? Can you connect your brain to the place of inflammation or injury and send it? Send it that breath. And we're going to begin to do some movement because increasing that circulation around the area is what's going to heal it. All right. So just lift up into a bridge pose. And note you can lift it, as high or as low as you want, where you would normally go, and notice where you feel this. And so a lot of people think that when they come up too high in bridge, their lower back hurts. Or a lot of people come up in bridge pose and they've, for whatever reason, have been told by a yoga teacher, like, don't squeeze your glutes. Well, going into bridge is an extension through the hips, and you need to squeeze your glutes. You also need to use your hamstrings. And so if you're just feeling this in your lower back, or you're just feeling it in your butt, we want to engage the hamstrings. If you're just feeling this in your hamstrings and in your back, you want to engage more of the glutes. So we all have different ways of moving through the world, and we have certain patterns of like muscle chains that work very well and others that don't. So by asking yourself, well, what is it that I'm doing? You can know that and maybe begin to do something differently. So lift up. Feel like you're actually going to squeeze your glutes, but do like 50-60%. And then notice, oh, does that actually take pressure off my back? Well, that might be something that I need to do more of. Now I want you to feel like, Okay, without moving your feet, you're gonna make the action like you're pulling your feet back towards your butt. And then, hopefully, you're feeling more work in the legs, in the hamstrings, because the hamstrings flex the knee, right? So you're doing this action, but your foot is on the floor, so you're dragging back, and I'm feeling a real good engagement right in the belly, okay? And you even got like it was like, you might even feel like, oh, I'm gonna cramp. You're welcome. Cramping is a good thing. It means that muscle is turning on and it might not be used to doing it. So now we're gonna take our block. You're gonna bring it between your legs. And you're gonna hug the block. Now, depending on how wide your pelvis is, narrow height or medium height. Okay. Now, all you're gonna do is hug the block. What are you noticing? So we're working the muscles along the inner thigh called the adductors, the adductor muscles. They add the legs together. You're bringing them into the midline. But you might also be noticing an engagement in the core, right? Because again, you want to recruit muscles around the injury so you're not re-injuring in the same old, same old. So using the inner thigh is a really good part of the core, engaging the core. So you turn on all the muscles around the pelvic girdle so you're not hanging out at your end range of motion or hanging out in a joint that isn't centrated. So squeeze the block. Now, lift your hips. Maybe you notice you can get a little bit more extension. All right, so you're squeezing the block. You're activating your glutes. Now pull your heels back isometrically, I mean no movement, towards your butt. And what I'm feeling right now is, oh my God, core, inner thighs, glutes, hamstrings. It's a much more orchestrated, participatory movement from all the other muscles rather than just pressing up and really feeling it only dumping into the lower back. All right? So do that like 5 to 10 times. Squeeze the block. Lift your hips. Feel the glute activation to extend the hips. Pull your feet back. So everything is working. And then release back down. Take a pause, take a breath. Notice what you notice. And then again, press your feet down. Hug the block. Lift your hips. Move your heels back without moving your feet. Just drag that heel, engage the hamstrings. And then lower back down. Now, if you are in a recent injury, this is going to be tiring for you. You're going to feel a lot, but you want to begin to engage. And you always want to work through a pain-free range of motion. So finding that engagement, finding that stabilization, and then asking to remodel it. So right now we're kind of in the reparative phase. When you're after that acute injury, you want to begin to repair, you want to begin to engage, strengthen, and stabilize. And then 6 to 8 weeks later, you'll work on really regaining your range of motion and stretching. But that's not what you want to do for the first while. So after the bridge pose, let's turn around and come onto hands and knees. And let's just move our pelvis and move our spine. So again, the hamstrings attached to the buttock bones. When they're tight or people sit a lot, they're often in that posterior tilt, and that can create a whole other host of problems. So just exhale, draw the belly up. Press your feet down, inhale, lengthen the front body. Feel like you're moving your hips and you're moving your spine and you're gaining a nice range of motion and warming things up so everything is working together. And now remember, we want to add engagement here. So the 4 on the floor, 2 hands, 2 feet. Tuck your back toes under, extend one leg. Now, keeping the hip neutral, so the toes are going, the knee are going to face down. You're going to extend your hip and reach your heel back. Notice my heel is at the height of my glute, and if you're very flexible, you might have the tendency of just lifting it. Now, if I lift my foot higher, I'm really using the muscles of my back, and if you tend to overuse your back and not use your legs, you're bypassing the work that I'm trying to get you to put into your hamstrings and into your glutes. So keep your heel at the same height. Move your chest forward. And then just notice, you're holding your leg up against gravity, which wants to pull it down. Nice. And then change sides. Other leg. Lift the leg up, 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 up. So if your glute is working more, you'll want to turn that, the hip will want to extend externally. It'll rotate externally as you extend it. And so you really want to keep it mindful. That'll put the work back in the hamstrings. So reach the heel back. It's at the height of the glute. Stay in that spinal extension so you don't round. And then change sides again. So you can really work on holding it for like 3 to 5 breaths, changing side. Be mindful on the side that you have the insult, the injury to, that you work to engagement, not to exhaustion. And then add a curl. So remember, it's the hamstrings that flex the knee. Bring it back as they attach below the knee joint. So hamstring curl and extend. So the hamstring's working the whole time here, holding the leg up against gravity and then adding the curl. And then adding the curl. Good, and let's change sides. Other leg. Find the ball of the foot on the floor, feel the engagement. Keep the hip neutral, lift the leg up. Don't lift it up so you feel this in your lower back. If you feel it in the lower back at the height of the glute, then just lower it a little bit more. Move your chest forward. So always in yoga, moving in 2 directions. There's always a grounding and there's always a yearning. And then add the leg. Bending at the knee. Using the hamstrings. It should feel really good. It should feel like work. Don't dump into any one limb. Press the opposite foot down. You'll feel the engagement of the belly, so don't hang out in the belly. Nice. And then release down. Come into a child's pose. Just to feel like, oh, now I get to release. Feel a lovely stretch in your back. Take a big breath in and exhale. Adding on. Come back to your table. Straighten the left leg, find the ball of the foot. Keep your hips neutral, lift the left leg up. All right, add the curl, and then feel like you're gonna poke the ceiling with your heel. Poke the ceiling with your heel. Poke, it's a very small movement. It's a very small movement. Keep everything around the core really engaged, and you are building strength. You are building and repairing the muscularity around that hamstring attachment, and change sides. Right leg. Ready? Find your corners. Lift the leg. Feel how now we keep adding on. The first one, which felt like, oh wow, I was really doing something, this might feel easy. Or you're going to do this practice until this feels easy, and that'll be a sign that you're ready to move on to the next one. Add the curl. And poke. Feel like you're poking the ceiling with the heel. And again, it's one of those like, less is more. Really getting into the belly of the muscle. Really allowing the tissue to repair, rebuild, and reform. Release the leg down. Child's pose. Let the back release, the glutes if they're not used to really working. And then let's do some prone work. So coming in to prepare for cobra pose. Take your hands out, forehead on the ground. Lift up into Bhujangasana. All right, my pubic bone is on the floor. My feet are on the floor. Really find the pinky toe, so your hips are neutral again. You're pulling your chest through the arms. This is a back strengthener. Lowering down. Press your feet down. Lift up. Now this is fine. You can lift up to here too. It's totally fine. Slide your hands back. So you really find the geometry from the shoulder to the elbow to the wrist. And then when you would lift up, your shoulders in a full high cobra would be over the wrist. Nice. And then lower it back down. One more time. Press your feet down. Your pelvis, legs, and feet are moving back. Your chest is moving forward. You can stop at any place along the continuum. Pull your hands back isometrically the same way you pulled your feet back in the bridge pose to get more space in your back. Press your feet down. Let your glutes help you. And then lower back down. Take your hands, like a pillow, rest your forehead on it, move your hips from side to side. So we're gonna do Shalabhasana. We're gonna do half Shalabhasana at once. So you might have seen Shalabhasana like this, or like this, and then lifting the leg. So again, the lifting of the legs, moving into hip extension, is a hamstring and a glute strengthener. We're gonna do one leg at a time because you wanna be able to work the injured side differently than the other side. And that might mean, okay, I'm gonna start with my injured side. Let's say that's the left one. Keep your hip neutral, lift the leg up, and lower it down. And then you would do the other side. Lift the leg up. So I like to keep your head on your hands because the tendency for us is to be like stuck in our head and neck. We can overextend the neck. I'm watching the monitor. You want to keep your head down because it's going to really help you focus your attention on the glutes and the hamstrings. Another thing is that your hip again will want to externally rotate. So I'll show you on this side, and you might feel like the toes start to turn out. Think your inner thigh lifts. And just going from that external rotation to neutral, like I'm feeling the work travel across the span of the back of the thigh. It's really nice. And then release. And so again, you could do more on the injured side eventually, especially if you have been resting, good job, for a while and you feel like you need to build up more strength. So a couple more times, half Shalabhasana, alternating legs. Nice. Take your hands under your shoulders. Lift up to a table. Come back into a child's pose. This should feel really nice right now. Again, if you can't bring your hips to your heels, put something underneath you. So you don't want to be like nose diving. You can just stay here. Or under your chest is also a nice way to feel that. And then going into a bird dog. From a table, so we were here already, and we were here. And now, to really find that core engagement more, and recruiting muscles all the way around, I'm gonna think that my left hand and my right knee are drawing towards each other. And from that, hugging in, finding that cross-referencing on that diagonal line, everything in the middle knit together. And so I keep my left leg lifted, using the glutes and hamstrings on that side, and then I extend out through the right arm. And here I am balancing from 4 to 2. Right leg. All right, find the middle. Right leg up, glutes and hamstrings, chest forward. And then I'm gonna take my brain to my right hand, to my left foot. Don't be heavy in the knee. Plug the foot in and you'll get that containment in the belly and reach the left arm forward. And then one more time each side. Left leg up. Glutes and hammies. Ooh, let's do a curl. And straighten, and curl, and straighten. If you feel this in the lower back, reach your left leg so much. Pull your chest forward so you literally create more space where you might be feeling if you would dump into. Right arm forward. So good. Feel like the hand on the floor and then foot on the floor pull towards each other. It cinches you in the middle. And then second side, last time. Press the left foot down. Reach the right heel. Pull your chest forward. And then tweak it. Hug in from this supporting hand and the supporting leg. And you can just see I just like hugged in and like my tendency to flare the ribs came back to myself. All right, last time, here's where we're gonna use the ball. Again, this is really ups the game and really takes you into your core. So you can also just do this back with the block between the legs for the bridge pose. We're challenging our core by making the ground unstable. So just lift the hips, Imagine the ball here. Squeeze the block. Squeeze the ball. Lift the hips. Use your glutes. Pull the feet back. And then release down. So one more time, engaging everything, all the muscles around the pelvis, engaging the hamstrings, engaging the glutes, using the core, using the inner thighs, walking the shoulders underneath you and finding even more. Then, if and when you're ready, you take the ball, take your feet on the ball. This is a little ball. You can use a bigger one, but it's the same premise. This is gonna go into those hamstrings right away. So, collarbones broad. Ready? Press your feet down, lift your hips up. Now this is wobbly, right? And so what I wanna do is feel like I'm gonna pull the ball in towards my seat and lift my seat higher. There's a lot of quakes and shakes happening. I feel that in the back of the leg so much. And then lower down. One more with the block, and then a final one with the ball. The next time we'll do some standing poses. Okay, block between the thighs. Back to the feet on the ground. It's gonna feel like, oh, you got the ground underneath you again. Hug the block, lift your hips, walk your shoulders underneath. Okay, just the left leg is gonna stay on the ground. You're gonna pull the heel back to your butt. You're gonna extend the right leg, just like we did in the bird dog. This is all about the left hamstring. Feel your pelvis wrapping from the back around to the front. So don't drop the side of the pelvis that the leg is extended on. There's a lot. Bring the foot back to the floor. Hug the block. Lift your hips. Engage your glutes. Pull that right foot back isometrically, so feel that whole right side really engaged. And then extend the left leg. The tendency will be to drop this side. Don't do it. Bend the leg. Bring the hips back to the floor. One more time. Squeeze the block. Lift your hips. This is a whole workout in a yoga practice. Okay, isometrically draw the heels back to your butt. Extend the right leg. Do not drop the right side of your pelvis. Bend the leg. Squeeze the block. Use your glutes. Pull the right heel back towards your butt and then extend the left leg. And you'll notice like, oh my God, which side are you working? Which side is weak? And it might not be the weaker side is the one that got hurt. It might be the tighter side. Because everyone is different and everyone has different patterns. And now, last one, ball. All right, so just the right foot is gonna lift. The left one is on the ball. Lift up into bridge. Dig that left heel in, pull it back. Hamstrings, 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 straighten the right leg. Keep your hip points level. You can take your fingertips onto them. Big breath in. Don't let that ball get away from you. And then release, lower down, change sides. Right foot on the ball. Left leg is gonna extend. Ready? Lift your hips. Oh, feels less stable. Pull that foot back. Lift the hips level. And then left leg lifts. You should be feeling such a concentration of engagement in the back of that right thigh. Let your head be heavy. Don't put that effort anywhere else that isn't needed. And then bring your foot to the floor. Bring your butt to the floor. Take the block between your feet. Take a big breath in. Take your hands to your belly. And breath out. One more time. Good. Come on up to sit. So do this practice while you're healing. Notice how you feel. Notice how you feel during the practice, after the practice, and especially the next day. Okay, so hopefully you're gonna feel sore as if you went to the gym. That's a good thing, okay, where you're rebuilding the muscle. As tempting as it might be, do not go into a forward fold. Do not go into like, oh, I just need to stretch that out, because it's counterintuitive, but you will be undoing everything that your body is trying to do, trying to lay down new fascia, new connection, new muscle fibers, and you're just gonna pull them apart again if you overstretch in that place. So I wishing you healing and health and happiness, and we'll see you next time.